What's up guys, Evol here for Volume 2 of Evol's Vintage Corner. This episode is going to be a little bit different than the others because it features some stuff that's not really widely available or really considered hobby grade stuff. So I just want to kind of go over this because it really was my introduction into RC. And I don't know, nothing more than that really. I'll just stop blabbing and show you guys what I'm talking about. So this right here, this little Ferrari something, I don't even know who made it, came from Kmart when I was, I don't even know how old, 7 or 8, I don't know, something like that. Very first RC car I ever had. My parents held on to this for many years after I had lost interest in it and then delivered it to me when I moved into my new house. But that was literally the first RC car I ever owned. And I still remember buzzing around the kitchen floor and whatnot. It wasn't fast at all, but it did have full steering, and you know, it's a lot better. You know, it was actually radio controlled, better than the kind of cable controlled BS they sell in toy stores these days. But enough about this car. What I'm really wanting to get at is this. So this is a beautiful restoration of a Nikko Thunderbolt. The Nikko was my very first 1/10 scale RC car. I bought this at Dolgen's, I think was the name of the store, which became Best, AM Best, something like that. I don't think either of those stores are around anymore, but I remember I worked all summer to earn enough money to buy said car. And I still remember the day we took it home. Literally, I'm sitting in the back of my parents' car. I open the box and I hold it up and I'm looking at it, and the guy in the lane next to us almost sideswiped us because he was busy looking at the car also. So this is when the RC craze was taking off, and it just was a really impressive car for its age. Now it's clearly like an early Tamiya knockoff. Back then there really wasn't like a basher car versus a racer car. I mean, this is clearly raced, you know, based on a race chassis, but it doesn't have anything like oil shocks. It just has friction shocks. Does not have rear independent suspension. But this is literally the exact car that I bought back then. This is not the car I bought back then. When the first RC car tracks opened in my town, I took it out there and immediately was not competitive. It was too slow. Because this car has a 380 size motor in it. The 540s that became popular were much faster. So of course as a kid you're like, well, this thing's too slow, I want something faster. Well, I love the car, I love the looks of it, and everything about it. It wasn't competitive. So we were looking at all the cars on the shelf. There was the RC10. The deal I made with my parents was that I had to sell this car to get the RC10, so I did, and almost immediately regretted it. Well, I love the RC10. There was just something about the nostalgia of this car that made me miss it. So you know, fast forward several years, eBay comes on the scene, the internet and all that good stuff. And my first job, where I was on the weekend, had a lot of hours to burn, you know, waiting on the phone to ring. I spent hours and hours and hours searching eBay, and essentially started coming up with parts to this car. I mean, I picked up a chassis, and I think this is the exact chassis maybe I picked up first. Here and there, but I mean it's hard to find vintage RC car parts, but you talk about a car that's kind of rare like this, it's really hard to find parts for. I think I've bought probably 7 or 8 of these over the years to get good parts here and there, what I needed. I had an original one, it was a 540 car, because they did update this to put a 540 in it. But while it's faster, I wanted to recreate the car that I had back then. So I finally ran across a 380 car, and put the rear section off of a 380 on this one, and you can see it's gorgeous. It's all shiny. This car has very little wear on it. The body and everything I found was nearly brand new. You can see it has no rash on it at all. This roof portion is the only piece that I'm looking to replace now. I've ran across a couple of these used. I'll get one of these eventually. Once that's done, this car will essentially be completely restored. The super hard thing to find on these cars are the tires. I had probably 10 sets of tires just trying to get a decent sized lug. I've bought several of the tires over the years. They're all dry rotted, they crack, they get flat spots. The tire or the wheels discolor where they're yellowish. You can see these look like brand new, and they really are. There's a seller on eBay, I can't remember his name, but he's a hobby dealer who had bought a company that was a warranty servicer for Nikko, and he had lots of sets of these, well not lots, but he had a few sets of these tires that were brand new in the box. So I bet I probably have $80 in tires on this car, but you know what I have is a perfect recreation of what I've owned. So I've built this car over excuse me, about a 10-year period, and have bought several cars to complete it. This car does run. You can see I have the original stick radio along with the flag that came with it. But this car is completely reconditioned. Even the bumper is in really good shape. I just need that roof panel. I'll consider this car complete. I don't know what else to say except for this car. I mean, it's really what sparked my main interest into RC, and that obviously had a big impact on my life. I'm still doing it pretty heavy today. Nikko RC, for those of you who don't know, they were around till up to a few years ago. You were still seeing Nikko boats and stuff being advertised on TV like Tyco. I think Nikko is now New Bright, who are still very active in the toy scene. They make all the hard bodies that a lot of people are infatuated with on the scale scene. They make really detailed car bodies. I'm convinced that the guys over there are hardcore RC guys that make bodies for themselves and then just stick some cheap electronics in them for the kids. That's a speculation on my part. I don't know anything in particular. But yeah, that's the Nikko. I don't really know what else to say about it. When I brought it home, this was before BEC's, battery eliminator circuits. When I brought it home, I plugged in put some batteries in there. Didn't even realize it took a stick pack. Couldn't figure out why it wouldn't go on these 4 batteries. Only the steering would work. Obviously I learned how to install and charge the battery and all that good stuff. But you know, learning curve. So got it home, realized I had to charge the battery overnight. This is before I had a quick charger. Had to charge it overnight, and then you know, just painfully, anxiously waiting for the battery to charge so I could go drive it. The good part was, with the 380 motor, I would get like 30 to 45 minutes of run time, and it was fast enough to be fun. It would do donuts and throw rocks, you know, enough to keep a kid happy. But around the mid 80s, when cars like the Radio Shack Golden Arrow came out, which is what my neighbor got. He got one that had a 540 motor in it. I mean, the car looked very similar to what I had, but the Golden Arrow was a freaking rocket. I mean, it handled like dog shit. It bounced all over the place, but it was freaking fast. It smoked my Thunderbolt, so I was ready for something faster, you know, as soon as that happened. Along comes the RC10, of course, and I was doing circles around the Golden Arrow, but yeah, that's what kind of drove it. But always regretted getting rid of the car. Regretted it ever since, but luckily with eBay and the internet, I've been able to exactly recreate what I had, probably a little bit better shape than what mine was when I got rid of it. So that is a pretty rare recreation. You won't be seeing these everywhere. Anyway, I think that's all I have on that car. So thanks for watching, guys. This has been Volume 2 of Evol's Vintage Corner. Catch you on Volume 3.